So, you want to learn Trickster? What's going on, guys? So today I'm going to bring you my guide on how to play Trickster. I play Trickster a bit different from other people, and I always get like questions on how are you playing him like that and how are you doing stuff like that with him. So I thought I'd make a guide on it and try and explain to people like how to like exactly play Trickster, because a lot of people play him like wrong and they say he's a weak killer, and he's not. He's a pretty decent killer. So today we're going to go over a few topics in this video. We're going to do your sensitivity, how to use Trickster's power, when to use your mouse one attack, the style of the knife throw that you are doing, if a survivor gets close to you and you're having trouble hitting them, zoning survivors, playing around pallets, when to use your main event, what to do at endgame, what add-ons are good on Trickster, and what's a good build on Trickster. If you do find this video helpful, please hit that subscribe button. I also stream on Twitch. The link will be in the description down below, and I hope this guide helps you out. So sensitivity is really important when it comes to aiming with Trickster. So my DPI is 2150 and my in-game is 50%. I play with my wrist, so I require a higher DPI, where you might play with your arm. So you might want to have your DPI lower because you can cover more stuff. On console, I'm not too sure, because on console, I have never played this game on console, so I'm not too sure to give you tips on that. So this guide is probably going to be more to the PC when it comes to sensitivity, but the same tips apply for when you're actually playing Trickster. So stick around, and I hope this helps you. When you play Trickster, you don't really want to use your M1 attack, your main attack. You want to be using his power all the time. The reason for that is, you know, when you use your M1 attack and there's a cooldown and like you kind of stop in one place and like he does his little thing where he flicks his his bat around. If you use his knives, you can constantly be in chase with the survivor while hitting them still. Even though they get the speed boost, you can still get them down, which is really good for Trickster. Like, the amount of pressure he can put on a survivor is absolutely godly. So you always want to resort to using your power all the time, but you never ever want to hit them first and then start using your power, because by the time you've used your power and you've got out the slowdown time of the recovery of hitting them with an M1, you won't be able to catch up to them. So if you hit them with your power first, you can definitely catch them off guard, and you can probably, most cases, end up with a down. Sometimes you will run out of knives and you will have to go to a locker and reload your weapons. Most of the time, if I run out of ammo and I know I'm in a bad situation or a bad loop or a bad tile, I will drop chase and I will reload my weapons, and then maybe see someone on the way and go after them, or if I'm quite close still, I'll continue the chase, because having those knives is so important, because you could down somebody in 5 seconds, or you could play a mind game and be stuck at a tile for 20-30 seconds. Sometimes you might not even like get the down and you have to leave the chase because gens are being pressured over the other side of the map. So always reload your weapons when the time is right. Trickster is really good at taking on multiple survivors at once. So if you're in your power, make sure you use it to your full advantage. Sometimes you can get like maybe 2 or 3 downs, maybe 1 or 2 downs, but make sure you always try to use it. Using an M1 is really good at these small loops right here, because if you get in your power right about now, you walk very slow and the survivor will always be ahead of you. So always try to basically use M1s quite smart, because if you know that there's no way you can get the survivor without hitting them with an M1, then you're going to have to do it. And most of the time it will result, if it's a first hit, it will result in the survivor running quite far away and you will have to catch them up. But if they are in the injured status, you can actually down them, and it's pretty good. Like, it just depends on the situation and like what sort of situation you're in and whereabouts you are. Most of the time I'll literally try and get a M1 attack if I hit some knives first and I get a survivor injured, and then I know, okay, the survivor is injured, I can hit them with an M1 and they're guaranteed to be down. So that's my advice on the M1 situation anyway. So there's two types of knife throws with Trickster. You can either hold down M1 when you're holding down M2 while you're aimed in, and that basically just allows it to auto throw it, or you can tap it and you can get precise shots with Trickster. So I do this when I want to zone like a survivor into like a certain area or something, and then I'll release like holding M1 when they get a bit closer to me, because when you hit M1, like just hold it at like very far distance, it doesn't aim correctly. It kind of like goes everywhere, but the closer you get, the more accurate the shots are. So you'll notice a lot that if I want to zone someone or someone's quite far away from me, I'll hit M1, like I'll tap it, like just to get them to go in the direction that I kind of want them to go. So without like, so if I was to hold M1 down, I would lose so many knives in the process while I'm aiming. But if I'm aiming and then hitting M1, I'm only losing a certain amount of knives less, which is much, much better. And it saves you going to a locker, you know, because you could get somebody one hit from death and then you've run out of knives, and it's pointless otherwise. So yeah, that's my advice on throwing knives, like the style of throwing knives anyway. Survivors will do three things if they get close to you when you start throwing knives. They will either try to get really, really close to you, so your field of view is messed up and you can't see them correctly. They will run around in circles around you, so it will make it very hard for you to hit them, or they will run away. So if they get right in your face, walk backwards while aiming and throwing the knives. This will make it so the survivor can't actually block your field of view and like blend into you, so you're walking back at the same time, and you can get off some pretty nasty shots, some pretty decent shots. Sometimes if you end up like running out of ammo or you feel like you can't do it and the survivor's hurt or something, you can hit them with an M1. But if they're not hurt, then they're going to get away because you've just basically given them a free speed boost. But always try to walk backwards. If a survivor is running around in a circle, try to track them and try to follow them. Hold down M1 and do not tap M1, because it's very, very hard to hit your shots with precise shots when a survivor is spinning around you super fast. So hold M1, or if you're in control, the attack button while you're aimed in, and that should be okay for you. It's going to take some practice, but once you get used to it, you'll be unstoppable once a survivor gets in your face. Zoning is where you push a survivor into a dead zone to give yourself the upper hand. So say if like you're at a pallet and there's one side of the pallet has like a jungle gym to the side, and then the other side of the pallet has like a dead end. You always want to zone the survivor into the dead end because it gives them nowhere to go. So it's really, really good for putting a lot of pressure on survivors. It also works at pallets and stuff, like if you're going for a pallet save and you're trying to get someone to go away, so you're going to zone them into a different area of the map so they disappear and you know, okay, I can go for the save. It also works when you're sneaking up on a survivor and you're trying to get them away from a jungle gym into the open with Trickster, because he's really, really good at getting survivors down when they are in the open, because his power is so good. I'll always try to go after survivors if they're in a dead zone and I'm like, okay, they're in a dead zone, I can definitely get them here. I can zone them out the dead zone, and by the time they get to like a safe area, they'll be down already. I always try to get someone down if I know they're in a dead zone. It's so powerful with Trickster. It's unbelievably very, very, very good. It's really important to go after players that are in dead zones because they have literally nowhere to go. So you'll see here that this girl is in a dead zone, and I know, okay, she's in a dead zone, she's very vulnerable, and the only bit of like cover she's got to work with is that box, and she didn't make it around that corner unfortunately, but we did get her still, and we still would have got her anyway. I do this quite a lot when a survivor is out in the open or they're trapped by a generator, and I'll just push them out and then I'll lead them into a dead zone where nothing is and there's nothing the survivor can do against it. When it comes to playing around pallets, Trickster is extremely powerful, especially if the pallets have like a low bit where you have like a field of view over cover. You do get high walls. High walls are a bit harder to play around, but the low walls are very, very good against, like when you're playing against survivors as Trickster, because you can get aiming shots. Survivors sometimes will duck, and you just have to kind of get used to it. You have to play around it. You have to know when to throw your knives, how to react in a certain situation. When I go around a pallet and stuff, I'll always try and keep the chase going one way all the time. I'll never moonwalk, go back on myself, because at the end of the day, the survivor can still see you if it's at a low wall where the pallets are, or like tires, or the cars here as well. So I'll always chase the survivor while putting pressure on them with my knives. They will get a speed boost, but against Trickster, survivors really want to run away here because he is extremely powerful if you stay at the loop. He's very, very powerful. So always chase the survivor one way when you're going around a low wall. Now, when it comes to high walls, it's all about zoning the survivor out. So you want to zone them out and push them into an area where there's not a pallet, where they have to go somewhere else, and then they'll be forced to get back to the area where they want to go if they've got dead hard or something. And this is where using your M1 attack really comes in helpful, because they'll think that you're still aiming at them with like some knives or something, but you have that opportunity there to stop for a minute, confuse the survivor a bit, because a lot of the times, this applies to all killers. You can do a mind game where you just stop and the survivor's panicking and they have no idea where you're coming from, and you can just like whip around the corner, like moonwalk around the corner and hit them with an M1. This only applies though if you have the survivor injured first. Yeah, sure, it works if you want to get like a hit on the survivor, but it's always better to use this move when a survivor is injured because it guarantees the down. Trickster is really good when it comes to pallets and loops like this, because you can just stay in the middle, and no matter what side the survivor is on, you can always hit them, and they're going to be in like a bit of trouble pretty much, because you have the full, you literally have the upper hand on the survivor. Yeah, they could hide behind the pallet, but if you use an add-on called Trickster Blades, I think they're called, it makes it so the knives actually ricochet off it, so there's angles you can actually still hit the survivor, and it pretty much makes like these kind of like safe-ish pallets in a way, but they're not really too safe. Very, very unusable for survivors. When using main event, you really want to make sure you have line of sight of the survivor or survivors that you want to hit, because a lot of people waste main event and they say, oh, it's useless, it's very, very pointless and all that sort of stuff, and it's not. But it's really, really good if you have a bunch of survivors swarming the hook, and what you can do is you can get damage into a certain amount of survivors. I think if you damage you get one health state on one survivor and you down another one, your main event will be active. That also is really good for putting on a lot of pressure if it's end game, and you have to like proxy camp the last person because it's end game, and you know that the survivor is going to come back and try and help their teammate. So it's really, really good for putting on pressure. He has like that same amount of pressure that Bubba does, when you're bubbering, basically, if someone is camping your teammate and there's a Bubba, most of the time you're not going to be able to save your teammate, because Bubba can one hit down you. With Trickster, you can throw knives and you can basically get someone down within maybe 3 to 4 seconds, and it's really, really good for putting pressure on if you want to get someone off a gen and you know that oh, my main event's literally about to run out, so I need to use my main event, and then I've still got knives left later, and it makes the other chase. So basically, if you push the person off a gen, you can chase them after your main event has ended when it's on cooldown, and you still have some knives left, so you can continue that chase because you pressured a survivor off a gen, and now you have all these knives to work with. Always try to use your main event where it's at your advantage. If you see that, oh, a survivor is, I'm literally 2 knives away from getting my main event. If you are quite close to the survivor, use an M1 attack and then bait the survivor to either on a pallet, like say if they're on a pallet, bait them, that you're going to pick them up, or stay next to a hook and patrol the hook, and then throw those knives, those extra 2 knives, into the next survivor you see, and then you have a main event. If you hit all your shots with your main event, you will down multiple survivors if they are around you, and if only one survivor is around you and your aim is good and you practice, you will definitely down that survivor. Another thing to keep in mind with Trickster is you can actually use your power, your main event or your normal power, to pretty much go through people's borrowed times, continue aiming at them, and then down them again. It's really good for like when there's a lot of pressure on you, or you have a main event and the only time you can use it is on like the survivor who got unhooked straight away. So bear in mind, you can actually go through borrowed time with Trickster's power. So when it comes to add-ons, these are the add-ons I use. I use Trick Blades and I use Cut For You Single. Trick Blades basically allows you to bounce your blades off the environment. It's really cool. Like, it's so good for when you have like an indoor map. So I recommend running this add-on. The next add-on I use is called Cut For You Single. So this basically makes it so your blades are a tiny bit more powerful. Running Trick Blades and Cut Through With You Single is a really good build, so I recommend using this. It's very powerful if you know how to use it correctly. These add-ons are pretty good too. You have Soda Can, which makes you throw the start of your knife throw is quicker. USB stick, I call it USB stick, it's called something else. It basically makes you go into lockers and reload quicker, in case you don't run Iron Maiden, because Iron Maiden's a good perk if you want to reload all the time. It's good on Hunters. And then Iridescent Photo Card. Basically, if you put like 4 or 5 knives into a survivor, you can chase them and you can M1 them and you can instant down them because they're exposed. It's good for a trolley build, but it's not good against like good players. So be wary when you decide what add-on you want to pick. So the perks I use are Barbecue and Chili, Pop Goes the Weasel, Monitor and Abuse, and Corrupt Intervention. I use these perks because my MMR is high and I play at a high level, so I need like slowdowns and stuff like that, because if you go in with a fun build, you'll get absolutely destroyed at high MMR. But they're really good perks if you want to play Trickster at high MMR. You can play pretty much some other builds on him and have some fun if you want to have just like a little troll build or like a meme build or something like that. I do want to try out Basement Trickster and see if that's any good, but I recommend running these perks right now because they're really good and they perform pretty damn good as well, to be fair. So that's my guide on how to play Trickster. It's different from the other guides out there. I think this one gives a bit more in-depth, like how to actually play him properly, because I see a lot of people play him wrong. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope it helped you out. If you guys did like this video, please like it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content. I do stream on Twitch, so if you want to follow me there, the link will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall catch you guys on the next video.